had to listen to the conversations of my family. That aunt, we didn't like her because none of my other aunts liked her. That uncle, we knew what his problem was from day one because he couldn't hold a job, fathered a lot of kids, drank too much, was a crack addict, whatever it was. I didn't need to form an opinion for myself because that opinion was shaped by those who I respected the most in my life. So if they said it, it must have been true. I just never realized that we were condemning our own folks to death. So just think for a minute, some of the things that have come out of your mouth, even at this family reunion, as you thought about that uncle, that cousin, that aunt, just think about it and say, did my children hear that? Lord. Did my children hear that? Because even though you might not have really believed it, it's what came out of your mouth. Okay? Because you know that you'll forgive it. It's like, you know, I love my mom. I just was tripping, you know. Mama, you know I love you. But your children hear you speak that, and they don't know the difference.
Amen.
All right?
Amen.
They don't know the difference. Some of them ain't children. They still don't know the difference.
Amen.
Let's see. In fact, the truth for me, though, was that I was different as an engineer, but even as a problem child, I always wanted to figure out stuff for myself. So when people said, that aunt over there, they didn't like him, I wouldn't know why. So some of them, I just went up to him. I asked my uncle why he did drugs, and he said, you know, you're the first person in the family. He said, I know everybody else put me down. He said, but you're the first one that really asked why. I told my aunt, I said, you know what, I love you to death. But have you ever sought psychiatric care? And she told me, she said, I don't believe you said that. I said, well, why? I said, you got to look at the stuff that you did and the stuff you told your kids about their daddy, and you act like that's normal stuff. But the stuff you did was crazy. I said, a reasonable person would not have done some of those things, and there was a point in your life where you needed help. Because she will cuss out her pastor and think it's okay. That is not okay. That is not okay. Who's going to tell them? Somebody got to. Somebody got to step out of line and say, you know what, Auntie? Everybody talk about you all the time. But I just want to know, because I feel like I'm supposed to love you. Is it okay if I love you anyhow? Is it okay? And it will be. It will be. What we have to recognize is that we have to sow into one another and hope for the best. Everybody knows what sowing is about, right? You got to plant something. You always hear talking about finances like, sow your offering so you can get a harvest. Well, I'm telling you today, this event is your opportunity to sow into one another. Amen. It means that there were some words that had to be spoken that will change the direction, the future for some of these kids. And you don't always have to be like negative and come down, man, you need to cut that mess out. But you can say, little brother, I just want to tell you I've been where you've been. And it's not the life that you want. Little sister, I know you look good in that little short dress, but guess what? What you think is happening ain't happening. You're attracting the wrong kind of folks. And I just want to encourage you, you're beautiful.
Amen.
But God's going to make an opportunity for your beauty to be manifested in the right way. You don't have to look like that no more. Do you know the power of that kind of word coming from family? And there's some conversations that mamas, they hoping somebody, I've just been praying that somebody talk to my son at this reunion so that he can just get some wisdom, because he just turned me off. But I'm hoping one of these uncles, one of these cousins, somebody can just speak to him so he'll change his life. In these gatherings, we must learn that we cannot waste valuable moments that we have together. We cannot just afford to have idle, bitter chatter, because there are generations born and unborn that are waiting for the manifestations of dreams. And our actions today either hasten or hinder the promises of God that God made to those who came before us. We're almost finished. Just think. It might be what a little one today sees in you or hears from you. What are the things that will cause these old men to dream dreams and these young men to see visions? When you speak, who's waiting to catch you? There are going to be some folks, and we're talking about family, just never seem to come at you right. And try as you might, they're just going to seem to be at odds with you. And while you may desire to give them a piece of your mind, or as we say, cuss them out, I suggest that we just take a look at Joseph and his family in our final passage. And this is Genesis 45, 3 and 8. Then Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Does my father still live? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed by his presence. See, sometimes our past is so bad that even when somebody comes at us right, we can't even receive it, because we know we should dodge out your whole life. We got a cousin that was at my uncle's funeral, and Even then, people said, I don't know why he's here, because they know that wasn't none of Raymond's son. But the wife, the ex-wife, even named him Raymond Jr. And even though he didn't look like us, even though he didn't act like us, it was just such a blessing to see that young man to pay respects to my uncle. And I told him, I said, the only thing I can say is this, is that even though we might not have thought he was our family, my uncle treated him like he was a son. He spoke into his life, and this young man just talked about, well, Daddy said this, and Daddy said that, and Daddy told me this. I'll never forget how Daddy, and I was like, he listened more than his sons listened. Amen. Amen. So we need to be careful. So Joseph said, please come near to me, so they came near. Then he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. But now do not be grieved or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here. For God sent me to preserve your life. And that's what we say. What in the church? What you meant for evil? God.